Hello and welcome to the Quincy Access Television Studios. I'm Mark Crosby. Thank you for joining me and my guest. My guest is Ward 2 City Councillor Richard Ashe. We are in your neighborhood, specifically in Ward 2. So, Richard, welcome back. I think the last time you and I got together was probably the spring.
Yep, I believe so. Yep.
And things have happened since then. We should mention, it was a very busy end to the spring. Certainly the council met, I think, over 25 hours.
That sounds right. Robust is the word that I use.
Yeah.
There were a number of agenda items set forth during the spring, and then also the budget hearings. So we had of course the appropriation for the firefighter gear that folks are well versed in the ENC acquisition, along with the budget. So it was a busy first half of the year, and we'll be gearing up for the latter half in a few weeks. So,
and the firefighter gear has just arrived, by the way.
Yes, there was a conference, I want to say the week before last, in which all of the firefighters and the members and the union leaders and the administration and the mayor, received the gear, and that was good. It seems the representation from the unions and from statewide and national leaders in the firefighter realm and in the first responder community has been great, and we're on the forefront of the issue. But it was nice to have that event and all the gear come in, and certainly for all of our first responders to be in the appropriate uniforms that will protect them.
Right, because they don't think twice when there's an emergency. When they have to go into a building, when they have to gear up, go into a building, it's seconds. There's no time to think about what am I putting on.
Right, and that was actually, there was and I guess not to jump too much already, but there was even a fire this weekend at Twin Rivers, and that was, I believe, when I spoke to the chief on Sunday about it, there was 8 engines that showed up, or 10 engines, and it's a matter of seconds, and they don't have the chance or the time to think about what they're putting on. They're putting on their gear to protect us. So
let's look at project specific updates.
Sure.
And we'll start with the Fore River.
Yes, Fore River is exciting. Continue on the quest. Certainly a value that I think I share with the administration and the Department of Natural Resources in bringing more positive programming back to Fore River and to Mound Street Beach. I mean, if you think back to the 20, 30 years ago, it was all kids all the time, and it is in large part pretty quiet. Outside of the summer, there are some weeks where you'll have a couple dozen people enjoying the beach and the water, but certainly not as busy as it used to be. So the last few years, with respect to, prior to my time on the council, the bathrooms being built and implemented at the top of the hill there at Fore River, the continued rehab with the Fore River Clubhouse that Commissioner Hines is working on, and then now we have the new pavilion and the shade structures at the beach, the new benches, the ADA accessible handicap ramp. And earlier this year, Matt Lowe and Commissioner Murphy from the Parks Department, from the Department of Natural Resources, we had a meeting about a proposed high ropes course at Mound Street Beach, and admittedly, I was a little surprised at the suggestion or the request, but after doing some research, it's been proposed actually a few times over the last couple decades. There were community meetings on it, I'm told 15 or so years ago, and then I don't know where in the process that didn't move forward, but with the sheriff's course in Braintree has not been operable for a bit now, is what I'm told, and there is a demand, and people love the high ropes course and the community building and the team building, and for the your school-aged kids, and then even like companies do it sometimes. So there's a huge following, and it was an interesting meeting and a good proposal.
Now there's enough space down there.
Right, and that's why I believe it was the most appealing spot, because if you think about the real estate at Fore River and at Mound Street Beach, you truly do have two huge fields, two large fields, plus a beach, and the feedback from at the community meeting that I had in March, I believe we did a Saturday in March, had a few dozen people. The feedback was almost entirely positive, and people that want to bring children back to the area, people that want to see the community building, and a lot of Quincy Public School parents that want their kids to go through, some iteration of this camp or of this program. But also, we still have all of the fields. We still have the majority of all of Fore River fields, so the Beechwood side. We still have the majority of the field at the actual beach. And then one of the goals was to make sure that the kids can still sled in the winter. So it's positioned in a manner where, you could still use the hill. Kids can still sled and enjoy that in the snow. And then we broke up the proposal. So there's a larger portion, and then there's a smaller portion towards the water, giving enough space for everybody.
So how will this be managed?
The Department of Natural Resources will manage it through a third party, High Five Adventures. They're doing the installation now. Folks can see the poles that have all been put in the ground, and then Monday the 17th, which is this coming Monday, they'll start with the actual ropes and all of the other bells and whistles, we'll say. So
there's no fee involved for use?
I am not sure about that yet. I don't know. I know that once it's constructed, it will be programmed through the Department of Natural Resources. So QPS families, Quincy Rec, the schools can use it, but I think that there may be some appetite for third parties to rent it out if they want to do community building or something like that. But it will not be, and I need to stress this to the parents at home, it will not be open for the public on the weekends. Like, your kid's not going to be able to get up on the 40-foot pole and start jumping around, and it will all be secure and managed appropriately.
Very good. Southern Artery and South Street.
This is outside of Clifford Marshall, and my continued goal to increase the safety there, particularly from Washington to Quincy Ave. That is where we have not only Clifford Marshall Elementary, we have Faxon Commons, Presidential Estates, and 1000 Southern Artery. A large senior population, a lot of commuters. Faxon Commons has always had a lot of commuters that use the MBTA, a lot of foot traffic, and it's just a busy stretch. So that, given the senior zone, there's been a number of pedestrian accidents over the years. One of the goals has been to increase the safety over there, and so folks now are seeing kind of the product of those conversations, which is another crosswalk at South Street and Southern Artery for families and kids to cross closer to the school, along with a median in the middle of the road, so that folks can wait and cross, be more safe in that endeavor to get to school when there's not a crossing guard. And then the exciting, which I know folks will be excited about, is the paving, which should be happening in the next few weeks.
Let's stay in that general area. Actually, go back to the rotary now at Fore River and talk about improvements there.
The Fore River Road Safety Audit was a meeting between a number of agencies: our traffic, parking, alarm and lighting, MassDOT, the MBTA, Boston Region MPO, Fuss and O'Neill, and there was about 40 people in the room, all discussing how to make the Fore River Rotary safer. It's not a novel issue. Unfortunately, I can think of a number of times where cars have gone through the rotary coming off the bridge or even coming off Washington Street. And if folks drive around the rotary now, they'll see the curb is broken up, and sometimes there are barrels put out to deter people. So we talked about, the width of the lanes and the lighting of the bridge and how it how it can juxtapose onto the actual rotary itself and the businesses that are around it and the pedestrian traffic. I was like a sponge because the civil engineering component and just all of these agencies and they have their own respective priorities, right? So MassDOT is going to say, this is what we need, and the city is going to say, this is what we need, and everybody has to come together and see what can be implemented there that will increase the flow of traffic, that will promote pedestrian safety, and also the businesses in that corridor. So we did a meeting at Fuss and O'Neill in Quincy Center, which is their offices at 1250 Hancock, and then there was a site visit. Everybody went around the site and looked at it and how to improve it. So, these things do take time. I mean, just so for a marker, the study was ordered a couple of years ago. So now the study's being undergone, and then now we'll wait to see what those results are and what can be implemented and what the city can help with and what other agencies can help with.
I know in previous programs we've talked about Cleverly Court.
Certainly, yes. I had a meeting back at this point, I believe it was in February. Folks may remember 3 or 4 years ago, the city purchased the car wash on South Street, and we promoted that as parking for both the soccer fields right next to that parcel. But what made that purchase competitive and appealing was that, along with the city acquiring that purchase, the MWRA actually gifted the city the lot across the street, which is a large parcel, which will be a community park. So we had a meeting back in February on what folks want to see there, and that was interactive. People had sticky notes. What would they like? Is it pickleball? Is it basketball? And there were some exciting ideas. So now we're gathering and looking at all the suggestions, what can happen, what the budget is, where the money's coming from, and certainly more on that in the future.
We did an episode at the pickleball field in Faxon Park.
Yes.
How is that going?
It's almost too popular.
Is it?
and it's one of the updates I have here, but with the increased traffic and foot traffic and cars up there, it's exciting that you're getting people up there. And I know now I get communications that say, there's people are waiting for a long time to use them, and which is good. And then we also need to figure out how to manage kind of that sign up, and if there is a sign up needed, or if you just kind of let it play out. But there's 8 pretty large courts up there. Yeah.
Right. And that area alone, you've got pickleball, you've got frisbee golf, which is also popular. You have the fields, you have 2 hiking trails. There's a lot going on. You've got a little play area for the kids.
And there's new batting cages.
There are.
There's a new batting cages up there. Yes. So if you go to where the new pavilion is that we had our meeting at, which would have been last summer, which is crazy that's a year ago. But the lower field to that component, higher field, there's their new batting cages as well, and that is a nice amenity up there too.
Let's look at some sidewalk and street repairs.
The paving, as I just mentioned, Southern Artery from Washington to Quincy Ave, Grafton Street, and Main Street is a big ticket item. Main Street is one of our largest side roads, but it obviously connects Union Street to Sumner Street to South Street. So a lot of houses, a lot of people that have been dealing with over the last 5+ years, the water mains and certainly the utilities, and they're thrilled to see that road completed, and as am I. So that Main Street's a big ticket item for me, Southern Artery, and then Grafton Street, Stanley Circle, and then up in Penn's Hill, of course, folks in that neighborhood, it's hard to ignore, which I certainly feel bad for sometimes. Hard to ignore all of the construction and going on between 10 Independence. There was a gas a gas leak in the neighborhood that I worked with DPW Commissioner Al Grazioso to push to get for the Department of Utilities to warrant the replacement. It was a lower grade leak, so it wasn't necessarily a priority for them, but I don't love the idea of my constituents smelling, gas and not feeling safe in their homes, of course. So with that came the huge main replacement of the utilities up there, and now the paving and those side roads, Nickel, Hillsborough, who they've been dealing with this construction for a while. So happy to see that come to a completion as well.
About Faxon Park, I should mention that one of the additions is going to be speed bumps.
We're being creative because of the added traffic, and whether it's softball, community events, people are hosting their nonprofit or their organization's retreats up there now, which was the goal. But since it's a park, but also there is a road, right? So it's the only city asset I can think of that is constructed that way, where it's one big park, but there's actually a road that goes through it.
Right.
So with the foot traffic, there's no sidewalks. We had a safety meeting. At this point, it would have been the end of last summer, early fall, and one of the takeaways from that was a request for some speed bumps. And it's not common in the city. The speed bumps they're not going to go on the public roads, but where this is kind of a mix of a number of different issues and departments, some speed bumps up there, mainly at the beginning. So from, I believe what folks will see soon will be from right after the kids' playground up to past the new pavilion, potentially up to the old pavilion or to the pickleball courts.
Okay.
And they'll be temporary. They'll go down and then come up once a year, go down for 6 months and then come back up. And that's because, it's a creative solution to the issue that I know TPAL Director Ed Grennan and also Commissioner Murphy are both putting their heads together to figure out if it's something that will help or not. But we're going to try it and see if folks will have some alleviation to their issues up there.
Let's talk about development within your ward.
Earlier in the spring, I held a community meeting on the Kam Man expansion. Of course, President's Plaza is what folks commonly know as the Kam Man supermarkets.
Used to be Bradley's years ago.
Yes, and Strawberries. The owner of the mall has acquired the 3 parcels. If you're looking at the sign, the 3 parcels to the right of it. So they're looking to expand the footprint. They have some additional retailers that they'd like to bring in. We had a community meeting on that. Of course, understandably, folks are concerned about the traffic. Right now, you may not notice anything, but on Saturdays and Sundays at 1 or 2 o'clock, the traffic over there is pretty heavy. The lane changes and painting, the road digest is the terminology for painting the lines the way that they were. That was in response to a number of pedestrian accidents that occurred a few years ago, and there hasn't been any since, right? So that road digest configuration it has been successful. However, it does lead to shorter, higher travel times and lower speeds. That's the goal. But also, that road digest has afforded us the potential to put in a crosswalk for the folks at Olindy's, now that the sight lines are easier and the speeds are lower. But that being said, that does not minimize the traffic on the weekends over there. So folks, obviously, they didn't really show much of an issue with the expansion of the strip mall. It's 3 vacant lots. There's like construction material on them, and if they're going to be adding in new retailers, there'll be an increase in security. They'll put new lights in. They'll do the sides of the buildings over. And I think that'll be a welcomed expansion, but we certainly are looking at the traffic and how to maintain and reduce that. I think one of the suggestions that came through that I'm working with Ally Luff in the traffic department on would be potentially timing the lights between the grocery store across the street from Kam Man and Kam Man so that they're at the same time. And then also the new proposal would see a designated entrance for deliveries. So right now deliveries are actually going in the main entrance and they're going around the back. This proposed expansion would recognize a designated entrance for deliveries and for trucks.
South Cove Manor?
South Cove Manor, folks would know South Cove Manor as the nursing home and rehab on Washington Street. They similarly have purchased and acquired a number of parcels between where the building is now and Mill Street. Actually, all of those parcels except save for the Dairy Mart corner store, and they have an expansion for a 104-bed assisted living facility. So we had a meeting that I co-hosted with Ward 1 Councillor David Jacobs and the owners of South Cove Manor and the stakeholders, and that was actually a very well attended meeting, and we'll see what the next iteration of those plans are. I think some of the takeaways were that folks thought the building was too high and may hinder their sight lines and the sun there on Mill Street.
74 Elm Street, folks will know that as a funeral parlor.
Yes, 74 Elm Street is the former Dennis Sweeney's funeral home. A number of projects and plans between 74 Elm and Fore South, which is the parking lot across the street. There were some meetings at the planning board and the zoning board to rehab the actual funeral home into 3 units with 6 parking spaces. That was heard by I believe it was the zoning board last month, and then we'll continue to see how best to work together to maintain the parking lot across the street.
And I think last I'd like to hit 190 Franklin.
190 Franklin is the corner of, I believe it's Franklin and Trescott, and it is a larger single-family home on a large lot. The proposal was to maintain the single-family home, construct an attached townhome, and then 2 townhomes in the back. So we're going from one single-family to 4 townhouses. The neighborhood meeting was well attended, and the proposal in large part was supported by the members that showed up. There were some additions and some revisions to the proposal, i.e. to keep the traffic on Franklin and not on Audrey Street. It's the smaller road in the back there. Take the entrances off of Audrey Street, keep them on Franklin to make sure that there's no cars in the residential neighborhoods. We added a couple parking spaces. The developer is going to maintain the large Japanese maple right there in that parcel that was very important to folks, which is a beautiful tree. And I was happy to see that that proposal was, it's a good team on it, and they listened to the residents and they made amendments and folks were happy with it. And then what I don't have in this newsletter is that tonight at 6 o'clock at the Fore River Clubhouse, tonight being August 11th, because I know this will be ready later on in the week, but there's a meeting on 619 Washington Street, which folks will know as the former Pizza Hut. So 619 Washington is at this point a vacant lot. It is next to the Prestige Car Wash. So the meeting tonight is about a potential Taco Bell restaurant coming in there. The owner of Prestige needs zoning board relief to move the vacuums from the side of the car wash to the back of the parcel. They actually don't need relief to construct the Taco Bell, but they do need the relief to move the vacuums back. So it's
Interesting.
interesting, but it's an empty lot. You know, I hope folks see businesses, whether or not you love Taco Bell or it's your go-to. Hopefully folks see investment and business on Washington Street as a plus. But certainly some questions and comments that we'll be able to tackle on that tonight.
I think we'll end with business news, and I'm looking specifically at Rags Tavern.
Yes.
And Dairy Queen and Gennaro's.
Yes, it's bittersweet in many ways. I feel like, you know, the last 6 months, a number of businesses and a number of really respected business owners, I say more importantly, are phasing out. And I'll start with, you know, the absolute Quincy Point legend, who is Dave Chu, who ran not just Dairy Queen for 60-something years, but, you know, the Chuck Wagon, and he's just a great guy and a great business owner, and owned one of the oldest Dairy Queen franchises. So I think it's my understanding Dairy Queen doesn't franchise anymore and hasn't, but he's been grandfathered in, so to speak. So,
right.
And you know, he decided he wanted to take the next step in his life and lease out that Dairy Queen. So Bella's Creamery, people love it. It's great. And Bella's Creamery, there's one in Weymouth, and there's a couple in other ones in Rhode Island, I believe. They've taken over the space. Hungry Tummy has gone into Fael's, which was the breakfast place next door, both that building that Mr. Chu owns. Hungry Tummy, who own their establishment on Franklin Street, they've opened up a Hungry Tummy cafe next door to where Fael's is operating. And then you move down Washington Street, and we see, you know, Rags Tavern that's closed, and Eddie Cochran, who passed a number of years ago, 4 or 5 years ago at this point. And his daughter, Karina, was running the business and certainly made her father proud in how she was doing that, and was able to maintain it these years, and did a great job. And she decided to take the next step for herself and her family. And Dave Newcomb, another well-respected restaurateur in the area, decided to move in there, and he's renamed it the Q. The slogan is "Get to the point," which, you know, I should have trademarked years ago, I guess, huh? But he's made some updates, and certainly has put some money into the interior, and I think that folks will recognize it and feel that it's still their neighborhood establishment, their neighborhood bar, if you will, but he's certainly updating it, and I think folks will like that as well.
And then Gennaro's.
I'm still mourning. It's only been but 48 hours since I had my... maybe 72 at this point, since I had my last meal at Gennaro's. So Gennaro's has been operating 12 Blanchard Road for close to 33 years. Jerry, Jane, Anthony, Rose, a closely held family business. They've had some of the same staff for over a dozen, or some probably over 20 years, some of the same servers. They have given back and catered a number of our family events, neighbors events, you know, community. Their family has been the epitome of community and of real family, small Italian restaurants. And I'm certainly happy for Jerry to be able to take the next step in his life and his career. And you know, there's an organization who's on the license board agenda for next Tuesday who'll be taking over the restaurant there, and the transfer of license. So I will update folks as I know more about that. But all the best wishes to Gennaro's and to the family.
And with that, we are at the end. Richard, thank you so much for joining me and informing folks about what's happening in Ward 2.
Thank you for having me, and we'll see you in a few months.
Very good. Maybe at the ropes course.
Yes, you're going up, I'm not.
Very good. Thank you at home for watching, and please remember to support QATV for more programming just like this. Take care.